Ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you with a message that has the power to change not only your life, but the lives of everyone you touch. We live in a world that often feels weighed down by pain, bitterness, and brokenness. A world where it can be all too easy to hold on to the hurts of the past, to let the wrongs done to us define who we are and how we live. But what if I told you that there is a way to break free from that? What if I told you that you hold the key to your own healing, your own joy, and your own purpose? And that key is forgiveness. When you've been wronged, when trust has been broken, or when life delivers wounds that leave scars deep inside, it's natural to feel angry, betrayed, and broken. Those emotions are real and powerful, and ignoring them is not the answer. But letting those emotions sit in the driver's seat of your life will only keep you imprisoned by the very thing you wish you could leave behind. Choosing to forgive does not mean pretending the hurt didn't happen. It does not mean saying that what was done to you was okay. It means acknowledging the full weight of the pain and still deciding to no longer let it define your heart, your future, or your peace. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the chains we so often unknowingly wrap around ourselves. You think you are holding someone else hostage by refusing to forgive them, but the truth is, you're the one trapped. The person who hurts you may never apologize. They may never understand the depth of your pain. They may have moved on without a second thought, but your life is too valuable to stay stuck in a story that was written in a moment of brokenness. Forgiveness allows you to turn the page. It allows you to reclaim the pen and start writing a new chapter that isn't controlled by the past. Forgiveness is not a feeling. It's a decision to set yourself free. Many people wait until they feel like forgiving before they ever take a step toward it. They think that one day the anger will disappear on its own, or that the pain will suddenly stop hurting. But true forgiveness doesn't work that way. Feelings may follow, but they rarely lead. Forgiveness starts with a choice, a bold and often painful decision to release someone even when everything inside you screams to hold on to the hurt. Forgiveness is not just something you do for others. It's something you do for yourself. It's the choice to release the chains of anger and bitterness, and to step into the freedom that God has already promised you. Today, I want to talk about how forgiveness, the kind that mirrors the love and grace of Jesus, can unlock healing, purpose, and unstoppable joy in your life. As we dive into this, I want you to open your heart, to believe that there is more for you than the pain you've carried, and to see that you are destined for a life that reflects the light and love of Christ to a broken world. It's not always a one-time moment either. Sometimes forgiveness has to be chosen over and over again. Some wounds are so deep that you may find yourself needing to forgive daily until the sting begins to fade. That's okay. Forgiveness is a journey, not a quick fix. What matters is the posture of your heart, the willingness to release bitterness every time it tries to creep back in. Every time you choose forgiveness, you take one more step toward freedom. And every time you refuse to let hatred grow, you get closer to the life of joy and peace that you were created to live. Forgiveness mirrors the love that Jesus showed us. He forgave freely without waiting for people to deserve it. He stretched out his arms in love even when people nailed him to a cross. That kind of love changes everything. That kind of forgiveness shatters hate and turns pain into a platform for hope. When you forgive like that, you're not just freeing yourself. You're changing the atmosphere around you. You're building bridges where others burn them. You're setting an example of strength, not weakness. True forgiveness is one of the greatest acts of courage a human being can ever make. No, forgiveness is not a feeling. If you wait for the feeling, you might never move. It is a decision, raw, bold, and life-giving, to no longer let pain hold you prisoner. It's choosing freedom even when chains feel familiar. Then I will not be weighed down by what tried to break me. And every time you choose it, you are choosing to rise. Many people think that if they forgive, they are letting the other person off the hook. But forgiveness doesn't let someone else off the hook. It lets you off the hook. You are no longer tied to what they did. You no longer have to carry the weight of resentment, anger, and bitterness everywhere you go. You get to live lighter, love deeper, and dream bigger. You become a person who refuses to be defined by the worst things that have happened to you. Choosing to forgive doesn't erase your memory or your sense of justice. It doesn't mean there aren't consequences for actions. It simply means you are making a decision to rise higher, to walk in grace instead of getting stuck in the cycle of hurt and revenge. It means you trust that healing is more important than proving a point. It means you understand that your heart is too valuable to waste on resentment. Jesus forgave without limits, so can you with his strength. When we look at the life of Jesus, we see a love so radical, so relentless, that even in his final breaths, he chose to forgive, hanging on the cross, abandoned, betrayed, mocked by the very people he came to save. He did not call down wrath. He did not condemn. Instead, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That kind of forgiveness doesn't come from human strength. It comes from a heart fully surrendered to love, a heart that refuses to let pain have the final word. Forgiveness without limits means there is no offense too big, no betrayal too deep, no wound too raw that can disqualify someone from being forgiven. It's easy to forgive the small things, the casual mistakes, the thoughtless words, but it's the deep wounds, the ones that change your story, the ones that leave lasting scars. Those are the ones where forgiveness feels impossible. On your own, it might be. On your own, the anger feels justified, the hurt feels permanent. But with his strength, with the power of his spirit living inside of you, even the most unthinkable offenses can be released. There will be moments when you will have to remind yourself over and over that you have forgiven. That's okay. Forgiveness is often a process, not a single event. Some days it will feel easy. Other days it will feel like you're dragging the weight of your decision behind you. But every day you choose to forgive, you are walking more and more in the freedom Jesus died to give you. You are stepping into the kind of life that refuses to be shaped by bitterness, resentment, or revenge. Jesus never promised that forgiving would be easy, but he promised his strength would always be enough. When you feel empty, he fills you. When you feel weak, he lifts you. When you feel like you have nothing left to give, he pours his spirit into you so you can keep forgiving, keep loving, keep moving forward. His forgiveness for you knows no limits. And because of that, you have access to a strength that knows no limits either. When you tap into God's strength, you begin to see others the way he sees them, not as enemies, not as hopeless, but as broken people in need of grace just like you. Forgiveness then becomes an act of compassion, an act of fierce, bold love that says, you don't control me. Hurt doesn't control me. Jesus controls my heart, and his love is bigger than my pain. It's a declaration that no matter what was done to you, it will not define you. The human mind likes to measure forgiveness. It wants to say, I'll forgive once, maybe twice, but if they hurt me again, that's it. Yet when Peter asked Jesus how many times we should forgive, 7 times? Jesus answered, not 7 times, but 70 times 7. He wasn't giving us a literal number to count. He was showing us that forgiveness was meant to be endless, limitless, unconditional. Not because the people who hurt us deserve it, but because we have been forgiven more than we could ever repay ourselves. There is a supernatural power that comes when you lean into God for the ability to forgive. You don't have to manufacture it. You don't have to pretend you're not hurt. You simply have to be willing to say, God, I can't do this alone. Give me your strength to forgive. And he will. Every time his grace meets you right where your pain is the greatest, his strength is perfected in your weakness, especially when forgiveness seems too heavy to carry on your own. Forgiving without limits doesn't mean you're saying what happened was okay. It doesn't mean you're giving someone permission to hurt you again. Forgiveness is not about excusing the wrong. It's about refusing to let the wrong own your heart. It's about choosing to live free rather than chained to the weight of bitterness. It's about trusting that God is the ultimate judge and he will deal with justice in his perfect timing and way. To the terminology, are we prepared to let go, to open your clenched fists and trust him to heal what was broken? Holding on to hurt holds you back from your destiny. It's one of the easiest traps to fall into, carrying the weight of past wounds, betrayal, rejection, and disappointment. It's almost instinctive to cling to the memories of what they did, what they said, how they made you feel. At first, it can even seem justified, almost protective, like holding on to the hurt will somehow shield you from being wounded again. But over time, that hurt doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. It becomes a wall not just around your heart, but around your future. Pain that isn't healed becomes the lens through which you see the world. If you don't let it go, it starts to define you, to shape the choices you make, the risks you're willing to take, the love you're willing to receive. You begin to expect the worst because you were hurt before. You start to settle for less because you're afraid of being disappointed again. Dreams start to shrink because hope feels too dangerous. And slowly, almost without realizing it, you trade the destiny you were created for, the comfort of a guarded life. It doesn't demand that you walk in freedom. It calls you higher. It calls you to risk, to love, to believe, to build. But hurt keeps you stuck. Hurt whispers that it's safer to stay bitter. Hurt convinces you that you can't trust again, that you can't try again, that you can't dream again. Every time you agree with that voice, you step 1 foot further away from the path you were meant to walk. You were not created to carry the weight of old wounds. You were created to run your race with endurance, unburdened, unchained, unstoppable. You cannot flow into a heart that is still wrapped tightly in bitterness. Unforgiveness clogs the space where peace was meant to live. It becomes a wall around your heart, and no matter how badly you want to move forward, part of you stays stuck at the place where the wound was made. But when you choose forgiveness, something powerful happens. You begin to tear down those walls, brick by brick. Healing rushes into the places you thought were broken beyond repair. Forgiveness doesn't erase the scar, but it transforms the pain behind it. What once brought tears can one day bring strength. What once felt like the end can mark the beginning of something new. You can hold on to the pain, or you can hold on to your purpose, but you cannot hold on to both. One will demand your energy, your focus, your faith. The other will drain it. Every time you rehearse the betrayal, every time you replay the offense, you give it another moment of your life that it doesn't deserve. But every time you choose forgiveness, every time you release it, you take your power back. You take 1 step closer to the fullness of who you are meant to be. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is not fighting back, but letting go. Letting go is not weakness, it's strength under control. It's saying, I refuse to be ruled by something that tried to break me. Letting go doesn't erase the lessons you've learned. It doesn't erase your wisdom. It simply says that the past will not have the authority to dictate your future any longer. It's refusing to be a prisoner to something that can no longer touch who you are becoming. Your destiny is too important, your calling too significant, your life too valuable to waste it carrying bitterness that was never yours to carry. You were created to build, to grow, to lead, to shine. You may not get applause for forgiving. You may not get recognition. Some people may even misunderstand your forgiveness, thinking you are weak, thinking you are foolish. But heaven sees. It's not that the hurt wasn't real. It's not that it didn't matter. It's that it doesn't deserve to have the final say over your life. You have too much purpose inside of you to waste years replaying what you cannot change. You were made for more than surviving your past. You were made to rise above it. Healing is not forgetting, it's remembering without chains. It's being able to look back without bitterness, to say that happened, but it doesn't own me anymore. It shaped me, but it does not define me. There will always be a choice in the center of the world like us. But you can't build with hands that are still holding on to brokenness. You can't run with feet weighed down by chains. You can't soar with wings heavy with resentment. To step into everything God has prepared for you, you have to travel light. Choosing to release the hurt is not pretending it didn't happen. It's deciding that what's ahead of you is so much greater than what's behind you. It's daring to believe that even though the hurt was real, the healing will be even more powerful. This joy isn't naive. It doesn't ignore reality. It knows what betrayal feels like. It knows what loss feels like. But it chooses to rise anyway. It chooses to dance even with the memory of brokenness. It chooses to sing even with the scars. Forgiveness teaches your heart that joy is in the absence of pain. It's the presence of God's healing power working inside you. There is a strength that rises in you when you forgive, a fierceness of spirit that nothing else can produce. Forgiveness refocuses you on what matters most. It lets you step out of the shadows of offense and into the spotlight of your calling. You realize that the enemy didn't win by hurting you. He only delayed you for a moment. The true victory comes when you turn the hurt into fuel, when you use the very thing meant to destroy you as a stepping stone toward your destiny. Purpose is hard to recognize when you're still carrying the weight of resentment. When you're consumed by what someone did to you, it's easy to lose sight of what God wants to do through you. Forgiveness clears the path. It clears your vision. Suddenly, you're not defined by what was done to you. You're defined by what God placed inside of you. Your story shifts from victim to victor, from broken to builder, from wounded to warrior. Your purpose isn't buried under the hurt. It's waiting to be uncovered when you release the pain that has tried to cover it up. It's the bold declaration that nothing from your past, no betrayal, no loss, no failure will be allowed to keep you from the life you were created to live. Forgiveness unlocks healing, purpose, and unstoppable joy. It's not just a moral idea or a nice gesture. It's a key that opens doors you didn't even know were locked. So often people think forgiveness is about doing something for someone else, as if it's a gift we hand over to the one who hurt us. But true forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. It's the act of setting your soul free so it can heal, so it can dream again, so it can dance again. And then there's the joy, a joy that is unstoppable, unshakable, undeniable. It's a joy that doesn't depend on circumstances or the apologies you never got. It's a joy that wells up from deep within because you know you are free. You are no longer chained to anger. You are no longer a prisoner of pain. You wake up lighter. You dream bigger. You love deeper. You live with a fullness that bitterness could never offer. Joy floods in where bitterness once lived, and suddenly life looks different. The colors are brighter. The possibilities seem endless. Forgiveness is contagious in the most beautiful way. It breaks cycles of pain. It interrupts patterns of retaliation. It says it stops here. When you forgive like Jesus, you don't just reflect his light, you spread it. You light candles in hearts that thought they were trapped in darkness forever. You remind people that love is still stronger, that grace still wins, that redemption is still possible even for the deepest hurts. Forgiveness stands out because it is so rare. It is radical. It is bold. It makes people stop and wonder, how could someone forgive that? And in that wondering, hearts are opened. In that wondering, seeds are planted. When you forgive like Jesus, freely, fully, without demanding payment, you offer a testimony louder than any sermon. You show that hope is real, that healing is possible, that change can happen. You become a living example of the mercy that touched you first. Forgiveness doesn't happen by accident. It's intentional. It's an act of bravery. It's waking up every day and choosing to walk in freedom, to refuse to pick up the chains again. And every time you make that choice, healing grows deeper, purpose becomes clearer, joy becomes louder. You start living not from a place of survival, but from a place of strength. The truth is, forgiveness is one of the most powerful decisions you will ever make. It's not easy. Sometimes it's a battle. Sometimes it's a daily surrender. But every time you forgive, you open the gates to a life that cannot be stopped by pain, a purpose that cannot be shaken by betrayal, and a joy that cannot be silenced by the past. When you forgive like Jesus, you reflect his light to a broken world. In a world filled with anger, revenge, and division, forgiveness shines like a beacon of something different, something powerful, something supernatural. Forgiveness is not natural to a broken heart. It's not instinctive in a hurting world. That's why when you choose to forgive, you're not just making peace for yourself. You're showing the world a glimpse of heaven. You are leaving proof that love is stronger than hate, that grace is greater than revenge, that light is more powerful than darkness. This world is desperate for light. People are hurting, carrying burdens they were never meant to carry, walking around with invisible wounds that harden their hearts and dim their dreams. When you forgive, you are throwing a lifeline to those who are drowning in bitterness. You're offering a way out, a new path, a better story. You may never know who is watching, who is listening, who is inspired to believe again, because they saw you forgive when it made no sense. Reflecting his life doesn't mean you are perfect. It doesn't mean you are still healing. It means you are willing to love when it's hard, willing to extend grace when it feels undeserved, willing to trust that God is working even when the pain still echoes. Your willingness to forgive speaks louder than your words ever could. It says, I have been forgiven much, and so I will forgive much. It says, I am not ruled by the worst things done to me. I am led by the best thing that ever happened to me, the love of Jesus. Forgiveness is a powerful declaration that Jesus is still changing hearts today. It's easy to talk about love when everything is going well. It's easy to speak about grace when life feels good. But when you forgive in the middle of real betrayal, real injustice, real heartbreak, that's when your light pierces the darkness the most. That's when your life becomes a lighthouse for others lost in their storms. Heaven celebrates, heaven knows that every act of forgiveness is a victory in the unseen battle between light and darkness. Every time you forgive, you are pushing back the darkness just a little bit more. You are expanding the territory of love on a battlefield that desperately needs it. When you forgive like Jesus, you walk in his footsteps. You take up his mission to bring hope to the hopeless, healing to the broken, and light to a world stumbling in the dark. Your life becomes a mirror that reflects his love in ways you may never fully see, but that heaven records forever. Every time you choose forgiveness, you are part of the greatest story ever told, the story of love overcoming everything. As we come to the end of this message, I want you to remember this. You were created for freedom, for purpose, and for joy that nothing in this world can take away. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks those treasures. It's not just about letting go of the past. It's about stepping into the future that God has already prepared for you. A future full of healing, of strength, of boundless love. When you choose to forgive, you are walking in the footsteps of Jesus, the one who forgave without limits, who loved without conditions, and who healed the brokenness of this world with his grace. You may not always feel like forgiving, and it may seem impossible, but with his strength, there is nothing you cannot overcome. In choosing forgiveness, you break chains, you heal wounds, and you set yourself free to become the person you were always meant to be, a person who reflects the light of Christ to a world desperately in need of it. So I ask you today, will you choose freedom? Will you choose to forgive, to heal, to step into the purpose that is waiting for you? Will you rise above your pain and reflect the love and grace that can change everything? Thank you for listening, for opening your heart, and for choosing to walk this journey of forgiveness. May your life be a testament to the power of God's love, and may you always find the courage to forgive, just as you have been forgiven. Thank you, and God bless you.